Welcome to a quick refresher on privacy notices, policies, and procedures as part of your Road to PIPA program. So let's start with notices. Notices are basically just that, notifications to individuals about what's actually happening with their personal information. And policies, what are policies? So policies are actually requirements for protecting personal information. Very often notices are called policies, but that's not the case. They really aren't policies. They really aren't notices, as you can tell from my definition just now of what a policy actually is. Procedures are there to support the objectives of a policy. And so procedures are the action plan or the actual how an organization is going to put into place and support the objectives or requirements in your privacy policy. So procedures may have already been in place in your organization for a while. They may be ad hoc, but it's important to document the policies and procedures because it's important for all the employees to be on the same page and to understand what's required of them. This way, all the employees know exactly what it is they have to do and what the responsibilities of the organization are, and that's the key. So here's some common types of privacy policies. You may have an organizational policy, and really that's there to demonstrate the organization's commitment to privacy, to having a privacy program, and to meet their obligations under the Act. Falling under such a policy would be other policies such as a security policy. And this policy, this umbrella overarching privacy policy, may also reflect some of the PIPA principles, such as retention and deletion, and meeting an organization's objectives with respect to supporting individuals' rights under the legislation. So let's talk about some of the policies and procedures. So we mentioned security. So a security policy would typically have components related or sub-policies related to physical security, that's of the premises and the site and documents, and also systems or electronic security, and that's related to policies such as a digital policy for clean desks, a policy for working remotely, and so on and so forth. And on the system side, that would also involve policies and procedures such as designing firewalls and also encryption. Now, another important policy as well is having a policy specifically for third-party transfers and third-party and vendors as well. So in this case, you would have procedures that relate to documenting and doing risk assessments and how to do that for third parties and vendors. You would also have, regarding transfers, specific procedures on how to do your due diligence for overseas transfers and the documentation that would be associated with that. We talked about supporting individual rights. So you would have a policy specifically for that. And those are things like an individual's requesting to see their personal information or you've received a privacy complaint. So typical procedures would be verifying the identity of the requester of that personal information, and also having a program and steps and action plans in place for doing the actual process of processing the request for information and how the organization is going to handle that and respond within the time frame as required under the legislation. And finally, we have a security breach policy. Of course, that's a key because breaches will happen, but you need to have a component that specifically addresses personal information breaches. So procedures associated with that would be having an incident response plan, having a way to assess whether a breach is reportable or not, having documentation in place and a specific steps to notify the privacy commissioner or notify clients and the measures that would be involved in that. You may have communications or or PR involved, and so on and so forth. So that's basically a snapshot of policies and procedures and the types that you would have relating to a privacy program. There's no one size fits all for policies and procedures. There's not a specific amount or type that you need to have. It basically depends, and notices as well, it basically depends on what personal information you have, how you're handling it, what you're doing with it, that you would typically find out during a personal information mapping exercise, and what are the risks associated with that, and looking at how you're going to protect the information. And once you've done that, then developing the appropriate policies and procedures that reflect that reality.